Awesome, awesome. Thank you. Welcome to the SLDC Board of Directors regular scheduled board meeting on December 19th, 2024. That's being hosted mostly by in person. Thank you to our directors that were able to make it in person and those that were able to join via Zoom. I would like to first call the meeting to order at 8:02 a.m. Can I have a roll call, please?
Sure. Director Arnold,
Present.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, Director Gilbert,
Here.
Director McBride, Director Spencer, Alderwoman Sonier, Director Reed,
Here.
and Chair.
Present.
We do have a quorum.
Great. Since we have the first item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from the November 21st, 2024 regular scheduled board meeting and December 5th, 2024 special board meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes? So moved. Second. The motion is second. Can I have a roll call vote?
Director Arnold,
Aye.
Director Gilbert,
Aye.
Director Spencer,
Aye.
Director Reed,
Aye.
and Chair Richardson.
Aye. With all present voting aye, the motion passes to approve the minutes. The 21st regular board meeting and December 5th, 2024 special board meeting. The first resolution that we have before you all today is resolution number 24 SLDC 983, approving and authorizing the executive director of SLDC to allocate up to $7 million of new market tax credits for the electrical accessories unlimited project. With that, I'll pass it over to our head of new market tax credits, Mr. Bill Sutton.
Thank you, Director Richardson. Good morning, all. Happy holidays. We are seeking authorization to suballocate up to $7 million of new market tax credits for the Electrical Accessories Unlimited Company, a local manufacturer located in the Tower Grove South neighborhood. They employ roughly 35 people, many of whom live in the neighborhood. In fact, they either walk or bike to work, which gives it a real neighborhood feel, which is somewhat unique for a manufacturer that has such a wide array of industries that they serve, everything from medical and military to healthcare and automotive. You know, in an area when it's challenging to attract and retain a productive workforce, it really looks like Electrical Accessories hit the jackpot. They have aligned themselves with two local not-for-profits, Hilljack House, who provides stable housing for those recovering from alcohol and substance abuse, and the Oasis International. They assist refugees in resettling, providing them with skills and employment so that they can live productive lives here. And these resources have been really instrumental in helping them build their workforce and retain a good quality workforce. The total project cost for this project is about $10 million. Their lender is Midwest Bank Center, who is providing the leveraged loan. US Bank is the equity investor and will take the tax credits. And they have worked closely with Alderwoman Velazquez, who is in total support of this. And they've also met with Mayor Jones, who's in support. This allocation is very much focused on the retention of the business. So it's important to note that this company is in the final phase of due diligence to be acquired by SCJM Holdings. And the partners of this entity, Steve Chung and John Muller, will acquire the business, all of the real estate, all the business assets at the closing of the new markets, which is hopefully sometime in mid to late January. They intend to maintain the business in that current location as opposed to moving it to the county, which was a possibility. They'll keep the jobs intact and add as many as 30 jobs as they grow this business. So this is a good opportunity for us to retain a business that we might not have otherwise. So the credits are really going to good effect here. This is a busy agenda this morning, I know, and you're in an intimate setting. So I would like to introduce the two principals of the business that intend to acquire the business, Steve Chung and John Muller, and let them sort of lay out their vision and give you their passion for what this business can be. John, you want to kick it off? Are you there?
Sure, I'd be happy to, Bill. I don't know if I'm going to be able to say it better than you have, Bill, because I think you hit all the hot buttons. Good morning, everyone. My name is John Muller. My business partner, Steve Chung, is not able to be at the meeting this morning, so I'll be sitting in his place. When we met this company about a year ago, we didn't fully understand how well the company supports the community, and come to find out that through the course of due diligence, it really does. So we were thankful that this acquisition became a candidate for new market tax credits to begin with. Fast forward to today, as Bill said, we're heading towards closing, hopefully within the next 30 days, certainly by the end of January. And we're excited to support the community. The company is in growth mode. They've grown 25% year over year from 2023 to where they're projected to revenue-wise hit in 2024. So we're excited. We're ready to go. We have a lot of exterior beautification plans, office renovation plans, plant renovation plans. So I don't have any other hot buttons, Bill, unless there are specific topics you'd like me to hit on this morning.
No, let's open it up to questions from the board if they have any.
Questions from the directors on this transaction? Hearing none, I would like to entertain a motion to approve resolution number 24 SLDC 983. Second. Motion is second, roll call vote.
Director Arnold.
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Aye. Director Gilbert.
Aye.
Director Spencer.
Aye.
Director Reed.
Aye.
And Chair Richardson.
Aye. With all present voting aye, the motion passes to approve resolution number 24 SLDC 983. The next item on the agenda is resolution number 24 SLDC 984, authorizing the issuance of a request for qualifications for photographers and videographers to support communications and marketing efforts. Pass it over to Ms. Stephanie Greasy.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me today. I'm here on resolution 24 SLDC 984. For background, over the past 3 years, SLDC has invested in its marketing and communications effort, undergoing a significant rebrand in 2021 in partnership with Candid, and hiring a VP of Communications and Public Affairs in 2024 to increase its capacity to tell important stories from the perspective of the people and communities we serve. Through the RFQ process that we were requesting, we would generate a short list of photographers and videographers who can capture our community engagement in real time and further help us advance our marketing and communications strategy. If approved, we would publish this RFQ early next week, then convene a selection committee consistent with SLDC's competitive procurement policy to review RFQ responses and make a recommendation to the board early next year. Any engagement secured through this process would be funded from SLDC's existing marketing budget for photography and videography services and other marketing implementation costs. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. I think just a point of reiteration for the board as well as for the public pieces. At this moment in time, we're not actually procuring any services. We're just creating a short list. So when those services are needed, we'll have that list of folks to be able to pull from. And then also, again, they will be working in tandem with our VP of Communications and Public Affairs, as well as Candid, from our existing marketing budget. So we're not requesting any additional funding, but just want to have a list of qualified vendors that we can call on as needed. Any questions from the board requesting this resolution?
Going through the qualifications, is there a way to make a, not mandated or requirement, but at least a way of being a business in St. Louis City?
Yeah, so that's included in the more detailed, the actual RFQ. We're happy to send that template around if you'd like.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that was
Yeah.
considered. That should be an easy one to fill.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Hearing none, Do I have a motion to approve resolution number 24 SLDC 984? Second. Motion second, roll call vote.
Director Arnold,
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, Director Gilbert, Director Spencer,
Aye.
Director Reed,
Aye.
and Chair Richardson.
Aye. With all present voting aye, the motion passes to approve resolution number 24 SLDC 984. Next item on the agenda is resolution number 24 SLDC 985, authorizing the issuance of the notice of funding availability for the St. Louis Main Streets Program. Pass it back over to our Chief Operating Officer, Ms. Stephanie Greasy.
Thank you. Resolution 985, again, requests the board to authorize the issuance of a notice of funding availability of up to $350,000 for the St. Louis Main Streets Program. For background, SLDC has been a supporter of Missouri's accredited Main Street Connection Program, which is a comprehensive downtown revitalization program launched in 1977 by the National Trust for Historic Preservation. The Main Street's practical downtown management strategy is intended to produce fundamental changes in the community's economic base while preserving its historic commercial buildings and the community's unique heritage. In 2019, the Missouri Main Street Connection established the St. Louis Main Streets Program to guide comprehensive revitalization efforts in 3 designated pilot areas in the city: Delmar Main Street, Dutchtown Main Streets, and Laclede's Landing Main Street. SLDC is actively engaged with all 3 districts. In 2023, Missouri Main Street Connection identified several challenges with advancing its 4-point strategy, including managing issues of crime, safety, cleanliness, parking, traffic, and homelessness that may deter customers and investors, and also with securing adequate funding, resources, and support for those revitalization efforts. Given SLDC's ongoing commitment to the Missouri Main Street Connection and the St. Louis Main Streets Program, we wish to publish this NOFA to address some of the challenges raised. The funding would help the organization's operational, administrative, and programmatic needs, with special emphasis put on the development and implementation of programs within the district's boundaries and adjacent neighborhoods that help reduce crime, foster community revitalization, enhance neighborhood livability, and encourage sustainable development. Grants of up to $5,000 to businesses for temporary window or door board ups, window or door repairs, graffiti removal, damaged murals, sign repair, gate repair, light repair, and other preventative security measures would all be permitted uses under this NOFA. If approved, we would publish the NOFA early next week, then convene a committee consistent with SLDC's existing procedures to review responses and make a recommendation to the board early next year. The funding for this NOFA comes from uncommitted ARPA interest revenue earned by SLDC. Thank you for that. If there are questions.
Thank you. So Stephanie, just a point of clarification for the board as well as for the public. We are seeking to partner with and receive applications directly from the Main Streets programs in relation to the applicable uses within the NOFA. They would then, the Main Streets themselves would then work to identify businesses who are in need of these services based on what's outlined in their application and what we've approved for them to activities for them to move forward. So SLDC itself would not be selecting the businesses that receive the resources. However, we will be working with the Main Streets and overseeing and getting reporting from them in an ongoing manner as it relates to how they are expending the funds. So again, we're working directly with the Main Streets as the conduit, and they will be working with the local businesses as they are deeply embedded in these communities. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions from the board.
I don't have a question. I will just speak to the embedding in the work that they do in the communities. Delmar Main Street falls in the 10th ward. And so I just want to share with the directors what I see, right? The testimony, what I see, how they show up in the community, not just at Delmar Main Street events, but at other events, and engage and serve, talk to the community. So I think it's really good the way that they are playing a role in this, more so than people that might not be as close to the work.
I've got a couple of questions and comments, pretty close to the Main Street program. I love the identifying these areas, the place-based work, really important. But the problem with these main streets is they don't have a source of revenue to
Mhm.
support their operations long-term.
Yeah.
So is the intention for this to be a 1 year, or do you guys see this moving forward? The only way that they're gonna support themselves is through grants, through fundraising, events, maybe property development. It's very important to keep those people in the places that they're working, but it's very difficult long-term, just like any not-for-profit. So what's the thought around that?
Yeah, so and Stephanie, please feel free to add any additional context, but myself, Stephanie, as well as the neighborhood transformation managers have engaged with the Main Street programs about this very specific issue that you raised, Director Spencer, around the sustainability. That's always my question to them. How do you sustain this? Because SLDC can't, continue to fund these operations long-term. What is the revenue model there? And so part of, our support to them is for them to start identifying ways in which they can start generating revenue. How are they developing their supportive services and programs that they can go out and raise other money for to show that we're adding value? And then being able to work with those businesses to establish other ways in which those businesses can help fund the Main Streets programs, whether that's through a special taxing district or just other donations and fundraising that they have within the community. But that is an ongoing question, and that's something that is something that we would continue to have discussions with them on because we want to see them be successful. We have funded through the support of this board, Leclerc Landing, Main Street hiring executive director. The Community Development Administration has supported the Delmore Main Streets on their executive director fundraising support, as well as supporting Dutchtown Main Streets. And so our goal is to help them continue to build that capacity as they're building up their organization, so then they can go out and identify ways to create more of a revenue generating model. What I will say is in some of our preliminary conversations, they have stated, the Main Streets have stated that in some states, they get direct funding from the state to support their capacity. In some municipalities, they get funding from the city as part of their ongoing operational budget. That's not a decision that SLDC can make, right? That has to be legislative, at the legislative level, but we can at least continue to provide them support to help them advocate for themselves.
I hope you're going to mention that, and I also want to encourage in both those, I believe in Leclerc's Landing and Dutchtown, there are already SIDs that are operating separately.
Yeah.
So the fact that they're not working together or looking at that funding source for support of Main Streets, there's an opportunity there. So maybe we want to encourage that with their responses to the notebook, because that funding source is already there. It's just not being used. Yeah. And then the last point on the $5,000 per, is that a per incident or per project amount? Because this seems really low, and maybe I just didn't comprehend how it was written, but.
Yeah, it would be per incident.
Okay. So
Yeah,
per,
yeah,
so
for the eligible businesses, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, we can clarify that in the actual, no problem.
And it also is, I think it's, we know there's been some challenges with broken windows and vandalism on properties in our commercial corridors. And so we wanted to make sure that businesses that have already been impacted, that file police reports and can show that they have incurred expenses with replacing windows or removing graffiti, they can be retroactive back to the calendar year of 2024. So if they have businesses that have already had those incidents, we can start to use these funds to address that, and then also be able to address preventive measures like cameras and lighting and those sort of things to support these businesses overall.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions from the directors? Hearing none, I would like to entertain a motion to approve resolution number 24, SLDC 985.
So move Gilbert.
Second one.
Motion and second, roll call vote.
Director Arnold,
Aye.
Director Gilbert,
Aye.
Director Parker,
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Aye. Director Reed,
Aye.
and Chair Richardson.
Aye. With all present voting aye, the motion passes to approve resolution number 24, SLDC 985. The next item on the agenda is resolution number 24, SLDC 986, approving and authorizing a capacity building for minority contractors work program contract by and among the City of St. Louis, the Community Development Administration of the City of St. Louis, and SLDC for the period January 1st, 2025 to December 31st, 2025. I'll pass it over to Ms. Stacy Fowler, who's joining us on vacation. Stacy, thank you for taking some time out
Let's see
to
the
join
palm
us
trees.
today, and hopefully, once you get this completed, you can resume your beautiful vacation.
No problem. Say the work must be done and we got to keep it moving. So good morning. Thank you, Chair Richardson. Good morning, Board of Directors. As you have heard Chair Richardson mention, it is time for us to seek your authority to enter into a contract with CDA for our capacity building program for our minority contractors. This program is a program where we have our plan room, and this is a program where we do our capacity building workshops and technical assistance for our minority, for our small and minority contractors. This board has already approved who the vendor will be for our plan room, which would be Crossroads Graphics. I think we did that a couple of months ago, but now it's time for you to give us the authority to enter into our contract with CDA to pay for the services for the plan room and to pay for the services for the technical assistance workshops that we do, like our bidding and estimating academy, our contracting and procurement boot camps, our technical assistance, our meet and greet and orientations for our newly certified MBEs and WBEs. This would be for the period of January 1 of 2025 to December 31 of 2025, and it's for approximately $100,000. So we would need your permission to move forward. Any questions?
And again, Stacy, this is just for us to receive the funds from CDA.
Yes, we are receiving money. Yes, definitely.
Just wanted to make sure that was clear. I know you have to spend it, but at least we're getting some money to spend.
Yes,
So.
yes.
Thank you, Stacy. Any comments or questions from the Board of Directors in regards to this resolution? And hearing none, I would like to entertain a motion to approve resolution number 24, SLDC 986.
So moved, Gilbert. Second.
Motion and second, roll call vote.
Director Arnold.
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Aye. Director Gilbert.
Aye.
Director Spencer.
Aye.
Director Reed.
Aye.
And Chair Richardson.
Aye. With all present voting aye, the motion passes to approve resolution number 24, SLDC 986. The next resolution is number 24, SLDC 987, requesting acceptance of a short list of infill housing request for qualification respondents and issuance of an infill housing design and development RFP to develop 10 to 20 innovative housing units on vacant LRA properties. I'll pass it over to Mr. Shelton Anderson for the presentation.
Yes, thank you, Neil, and good morning. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Excellent, excellent. So resolution 24 SLDC 987, just as Neil indicated, is the resolution to approve a short list of qualified respondents. Just to be clear, the funding source is the currently ARPA funds that have been designated and passed through to CDA with the subrecipient agreement to SLDC. So this resolution is not to request additional funds, but simply to receive and to leverage those funds for the development of infill housing. To give you some quick background, as you may know, in September of this year, we brought forth a resolution to the SLDC board that was for the development of an RFQ that went out to the development community. As you may know, St. Louis, along with the nation, faces a significant shortfall in housing units, and that's for both market rate as well as affordable units. And specifically, this request addresses the infill of affordable units where we're essentially approximately 16,000 units short for infill housing across the city of St. Louis. And so to that end, we issued an RFQ in October. We received 12 firms that responded. A selection committee was convened to review the responses. We did leverage the SLDC standard process of scoring each of the responses. To give you some additional background, this is a joint effort that was comprised of both SLDC and CDA. And so along with the members of the selection committee and those that are participating in this process, does include members from SLDC, members from the Community Development Administration, as well as members from PDA. So with that, the selection committee reviewed the qualifications of each responder, really assessing the technical ability, their experience level, as well as even perhaps performing different types of construction for innovative housing. And when we talk about innovative housing, this really is about creating housing types such as modular construction, prefabrication construction, panelized, and even potentially 3D printing or other various forms that may have not been used in the city. And that really is to address a more rapid form of development and doing that in both an affordable and a quality product. So with that, the selection committee made a recommendation to select the following firms that will be issued an RFP. Those firms are Builtwise Structures, BNIM plus Icon, Module Building Systems, St. Louis Design Alliance, and the Second Opinion Group. In addition to the firms, we're requesting simply that we be allowed and have approval to move forward with an RFP that from a framework standpoint does allow us to designate the $3.25 million to either a development team or development teams. So that could be the selection of one or several firms for the development of infill housing. SLDC will essentially have an RFP that would be issued sometime in January, perhaps. And then we would look to score those responses in perhaps late February, and then move forward with making a determination and bringing those respondents back to the SLDC board for approval after we have issued the RFP. So in summary, again, this resolution is to do two things. It is to adopt the short list that has been recommended by the selection committee, and it is for the development and the issuance of the RFP. Once the RFP is issued, we will be bringing those respondents back to the SLDC board before we move forward with making any final selections and or entering into contracts for the development of infill housing. With that, I will pause and turn it over to you directors for any questions and or comments and your support in moving forward with the recommendation.
Thank you, Shelton. The first again, point I think I would like for you to just go into greater detail on is the $25,000 stipend. Can you talk a little bit more about that, please?
Yeah, correct. So this is essentially a design competition, knowing that it takes a lot of time and effort for developers to assemble teams, meaning the architects, engineers, and or other teams and subcontractors to even be able to respond to the RFP. We want it to be thoughtful and also equitable in ensuring that there's a way to, have the developers, one, be able to benefit for their time and effort, but also because SLDC will have the opportunity to retain the designs that are actually submitted as a part of the RFP process. And so that is where we will actually be able to leverage the innovation that comes out of this process in actually developing plans for infill housing in various areas of St. Louis. So previously, the resolution that was presented in September actually did note that we would be issuing stipends of up to $25,000. And so it will be that after the RFP is issued, the selection committee certainly will make a recommendation of the firms and the actual amounts that will be issued to each. But those that do respond to the RFP will be essentially issued a stipend up to that amount for their time, their participation, in their innovative plans and concepts that they are submitting as a part of the response.
Any questions, further questions from the directors? Director Spencer.
Bill, I'm so excited to hear about this program. I've been tracking the 3D printing specifically and looking at modular building for about 10 years. That's the only way we're really going to scale up and do it at the level that the city needs. I'm really interested in what you expect the final product to look like, especially with such a small amount of funding. You know, when you're going through an innovative process, it's not going to cost what it might cost to build it, you know, the first or second time. It's going to have to gain efficiencies over time. So what are your expectations at the end? And is this maybe a subsidy for, you know, maybe some sort of other financial package to be able to build the houses, or are you expecting that 3.5 million or 3.25 million to cover everything?
Yeah, no, that's a good question, Director Spencer, and you're correct. This is really addressing the reality that the burden of developing housing in a typical timeline is anywhere from 24 plus months. And also, as we look at ways to reduce the cost burden of development, the average, housing development can be anywhere from 300 or so more thousands of dollars for, even a 2-bedroom in some cases. And so what we seek in this project is to create a concept to really show the development community and the city that it's not just that these concepts are not being used, they're being used and leveraged in other cities and communities. And that we actually can build perhaps 10 to 20 homes, either in a cluster site or potentially, more than one site, that this funding that we're receiving, federal funding, is basically serving as a subsidy where the development community would typically have the burden of developing housing and not being able to essentially make that affordable, right? So this really is taking, funding and using it in a creative and smart way to subsidize where the development community typically would not be able to finance a product that is innovative and to do that in an affordable way. From that, once we create the pilot, we do look to further it so that, again, it's not just 10 to 20 homes, but it's a representation of what can be to where we would look to expand to hundreds of housing developments across the city over several years.
And
Does
that's
that answer your question, Director?
Yes.
And also, Shelton, that was also one of the reasons why we brought in Planning and Urban Development Agency, PDA, around the planning and zoning. Obviously, with these different innovative styles, right? It's different than what we typically see. So making sure that planning and zoning is part of that discussion to ensure that they meet the appropriate guidelines within our zoning. And if we need to make any modifications within our zoning to accommodate this type of innovative housing in the future, they're at the table to support making those overhaul changes to the overall plan, rather than just making it one-off, kind of streamlining that process. So we brought in PDA to ensure that they were at the table to help support the developer as well as SLDC in that process.
Does that include the building division too, Neil, as far as building codes and printing?
So once we receive, so first is getting them through the planning and zoning, and once we receive the responses and the drawings and those things, we would then share that with the building division for them to sign off, get their approval, and then for that to be part of really a framework that allows for us to be able to move in this way moving forward. Whereas these innovative designs, the building division, it will take them longer time period to get that approval, which hinders growth and progress on accelerating the pace. So it's really being able to create a pilot for all of the city departments to get more familiar with these innovative approaches to housing development. And so as we bring in these developers moving forward, we can have a more streamlined process.
Thank you.
Yeah, my question was, besides the St. Louis Design Alliance or any of these other organizations local?
You want to speak to that, Shelton?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So we do have in the scoring criteria that the majority of those that have responded are local firms. One of the firms actually is not a local firm, and that is a firm that has relocated its operations to St. Louis recently. So they are presently in St. Louis and operating. But again, that's one criteria based on all the criteria that the selection committee looks at. It really is, has the respondent actually developed modular and or other creative concepts. How many years of experience does the entire team, those who are directly overseeing the operations, what is their portfolio? So those are just a part of the scoring criteria that was developed as a part of the overall teams within the city agencies to make a recommendation of the qualified firms that we are seeking approval to move forward with.
Any,
I have, well, I do want to compliment St. Louis Design Alliance. I have a great relationship with them, starting with I was a client of theirs before. So I've seen their work and they, again, not partial to them because they're in the 10th ward, but they also engage in the community. They're on Delmar Main, the street area. So I just see them and interact with them all the time. And they're a very diverse and inclusive organization and business. I just had a question in case I missed it, and I'm sorry if I did, Mr. Anderson. Have you all already thought about the lots, right? The vacant LRA properties that you're gonna, or how are you gonna select those?
That's an extremely good question. So yes, we've made a recommendation to the committee on the top sites of where we are having significant investments. And so this actually is a part of the block by block approach where I think you all are aware. Currently, we have funding for various programs around LRA demolition activities, LRA and prop net stabilization activities, as well as lot clearing and debris removal and mowing activities. It also is that we have taken the mapping tool that we use and the vacancy collaborative that uses to know where other citywide investments are being made, whether it be commercial, retail, business, or other development related investments. So that is that we want to be intentional about ensuring that the development for the infill housing product is being developed where there are other investments that either are currently made or that will be made in the timing for the infill housing development, which again, we're seeking to do in 2025. This is not a product that we're looking to belabor into several years, but the actual development of housing in 2025. So yes, that is correct. It would be in line with those geographies. And once we do get responses as a part of the RFP process, we'll be bringing those specific sites back to the board as a part of the overall approval of not just the sites, but those that will be awarded to move forward into a contract for development as well.
yes. Yes, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I missed you.
I'm just curious about the end use of the infill. When back in the day of PB development block grants and housing corporation, we did a lot of infill in the early days of food lot. So are these going to be intended to be rentals, or then to be moderate rate, or are we trying to encourage home ownership? On my housing corporation in Soulard, we tried to lower the density. Of course, they had to qualify for whatever financing they had. So Operation Impact did a pretty good job with us on all that. So what is the end use? And I hope also that you could address the sympathy to particular historic districts and their historic codes. So if you could address that.
Yes, no, those are good questions, Director. So I'll go in reverse order. So the historic district and historic codes, as Chair Richardson mentioned, we have been deeply ingrained with these conversations in collaboration with Planning and Urban Design Agency. And so it is that we have a solve for where we know there are historic districts that would either prohibit and or require a variance to these developments versus areas where we don't have those challenges. And so that is, again, where we've, from a mapping standpoint, identified the areas or the geographies, if we will, where we have a path of least resistance to actually be successful for infill housing that still does develop in the theme of where we know we need to put the investments of the Economic Justice Action Plan, areas of EJ1 and EJ2 that, are the most significant of where we should be investing. And then from a affordability and rental and ownership standpoint, the goal is to create affordable housing that is, again, below 80% AMI. That's actually listed in the current agreement between CDA and SLDC. And that is that there are opportunities to produce housing for both rental and ownership. What we will do in the RFP is essentially make it very clear to the respondents that we're looking for both themes. And the selection committee will be reviewing each individual response to make a determination of where it is more beneficial to do housing development for either rental or ownership, if that makes sense. We do not want to impede creativity. And so in some instances, if we're overly specific and overly prescriptive in RFPs, we may actually prohibit a developer from bringing some innovation that solves for both rental and affordability. And so again, we want to be very careful not to inhibit that and to simply garner the request to the development community of asking the question of how do we actually solve for the right mix of lease and or ownership. That is typically done in development where developers will review the data of not just what is current in the housing market, but what are we building for future forward. Home mixes are different in terms of, the types of bedrooms, who is renting versus who is owning, age groups, demographics. So all of that will be considered from a data standpoint so that, again, we as an agency are not, inhibiting development, but really developing based on the reality of who we're developing for in the future forward.
And again, when we ultimately review the RFPs will come back before this board, before we actually start to invest the funding. So the responses, you'll have another opportunity to ask those questions directly from the individual entities that have been selected through the RFP process as well. So there will be another opportunity to ask more specific questions at that time. And just to note, the 80% AMI or below is a requirement of the ARPA funds, the American Rescue Plan Act funds. So as we look at future opportunities, we want to have housing as diverse as our city. So as we think about the middle income families, 80 to 120%, and even just the market rate, we want to ensure that we create housing affordability across the spectrum. And when we say housing affordability, that means that an individual household is not paying more than 30% of their income towards housing expenses. So that's our goal and our mission here at SLDC. But because of the requirements of this funding source, it has to stay at 80% AMI or below for this set of housing. So any other questions? Okay. Hearing none, I would like to entertain a motion to approve resolution number 24 SLDC 987. So moved. Second order. Motion and second, roll call vote.
Director Arnold.
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Aye. Director Gilbert.
Aye.
Director Spencer.
Aye.
Director Reed.
Aye.
And Chair Richardson.
Aye. With all present voting aye, the motion passes to approve resolution number 24 SLDC 987. Actually, the next resolution that we will hear is resolution number 24 SLDC 989. We will come back to SLDC resolution number 988, but I think Lorna and the team wanted to present the smaller awards, and then we get to the larger awards, and that Lance will present on 88. So that I'll move forward with resolution number 24 SLDC 989, authorizing SLDC to execute grant agreements and disperse grants from the North St. Louis Small Business and Nonprofit Program to eligible businesses and nonprofits for business stabilization efforts. So I'll pass it over to Ms. Lorna Alexander for the presentation.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair Richardson. Good morning, Board of Directors, and happy holidays to each of you. The three resolutions that Chair Richardson just referenced, 988, 989, and 990, all are resolutions approving awards from the North City Small Business and Nonprofit Grant Program. In the resolution, it indicates for each of the program stabilization, as you can see here on the legend, it's green. Those businesses that we're requesting approval are highlighted in green. Operation expansion in yellow, community enhancement, which Lance will go through, is in the orange. There's one business that is we're requesting approval for both expansion and community enhancement. So they're highlighted in blue. There are a few capacity building grants that we are awarding. They do not have a highlight if they do not have one of the other programs included. So you would see the $5,000 by itself or $2,500 by itself. And then lastly, we included in the, on the spreadsheet this time, a column for rescission. All the rescissions at this time, we're calling it funds for reallocation. They're highlighted in a light red. And for this board meeting, the rescissions all come from the Community Enhancement Program. So Lance will go into detail on those with his presentation. And then finally, I wanted to note here, if I can, how about that?
Just grab the slide bar at the bottom.
So to the right of the spreadsheet, there is a column that I wanted to know for board approval. So we're trying to navigate here. So at the December 5 meeting, the special board meeting, the board approved 26 expansion grants. And so they now have a 12-5 date in that last column on the spreadsheet. So I just wanted to make note of that. And any approvals that we received today, they'll have the 12/19 board approval date and those as they're uploaded to the transparency portal. So in regards to resolution 989 for stabilization, we only are requesting approval for one additional stabilization award. It's the business of number 0320. It was a reconsideration, so they weren't on the initial list, and we're requesting approval today. They've been vetted, and they have cleared both the license collector and the collector of revenues office. We're requesting approval to award them the $15,000. Chair Richardson, I don't know if you want me to stop here and we vote on that particular resolution or go through the operational expansion awards as well, and then vote on them separately at the end.
Let's go ahead and vote on this one so we can have clear delineation between the programs and what we're voting on, given that there are different components of the North City Grant Program. And Lorna, just for context again, for the board as well as the public, what are the purposes for the stabilization grants?
So the stabilization awards was our non-competitive program inside the North City Grant Program. And it's for the businesses to stabilize from the hardships from the pandemic. In their grant agreement, they have to complete a budget of eligible expenses to show what that stabilization will look like. And so if it's to assist with salaries for the coming years, to buy more supplies or purchase additional equipment, to pay their mortgage, pay their utility bills, anything that will help the business stabilize and be able to move forward in the future.
So for this one, directors, it's only Willis Freight is the only stabilization award that we have for consideration today. Is there any questions from the board around this resolution?
What's the number, the line number?
0320. It's at the top of, the page numbers on these next time. Oh, wait.
And on the top of page 7.
Page 7 of 12. There we go.
Can I make just a suggestion?
Yes, please.
Because when you get this a couple of days before a meeting. There's so much to review, and we're not in this every day like Lorna and Lance. So if there's a way to present exactly what's being voted on per resolution without having all of the companies
Yeah.
listed, that would be really helpful to me to make it a little bit easier
We
for the review. This is a lot of transparency, and I know that's the goal.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of information. I would put this up against, any other city in the country. But as a director going through this, a couple of days before would be helpful to have it summarized in a little bit more comprehensive way.
Agreed. Did you catch that, Lorna and Lance?
Yes,
Yeah.
message received.
All right. Thank you. Any other questions about this specific resolution? Hearing none, I would like to entertain a motion to approve resolution number 24 SLDC 989.
So move.
Second. Motion second, roll call vote.
Director Arnold,
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, Director Gilbert,
Aye.
Director Spencer,
Aye.
Director Reed,
Aye.
and Chair Richardson.
Aye. With all present voting aye, the motion passes to approve resolution number 24 SLGC 989. The next resolution is resolution number 24 SLDC 990. The supplemental resolution authorizing SLDC to execute grant agreements and disperse grants from the North St. Louis Small Business and Nonprofit Programs to eligible businesses and nonprofits for operational expansion efforts. Lorna, can you please give a quick presentation of this resolution?
Yes, thank you again, Chair Richardson. So for the operational expansion grants, those highlighted in yellow, these are the businesses that have been vetted as viable businesses and have cleared both the collector of revenue and the licensed collector's offices. They all received conditional awards. The dollar amount for 1 to 5 employees is $25,000. Any grant award over the $25,000, the number of full-time equivalent employees that they had in 2023 has been verified by their payroll records that they had to submit to us. So right now we have 29 businesses that we're requesting approval for the expansion award for a dollar amount of $1,045,000 is the total. So you'll see in the grant funding column that we're asking approval, the dollar amount in yellow is the approval amount for the expansion award. We can and will in the future pull these out on a separate sheet. And however, based on the transparency portal and the public's awareness of the businesses that have received the conditional award, we were hoping to take this sheet and just load it up to show the updates to it as those awards transition from conditional to approved and awarded funds. However, we will, I can understand the confusion. We do work with them every day, pull them out. As far as the board getting the list, like with only 2 or 3 days notice, here's what we're faced with this. The board meets once a month. The businesses have been waiting 2-3 years, right? And so as we're vetting them and trying to get clearance from the 2 offices in City Hall, we're sending over lists of 100 businesses. They're doing the best they can to get back to us. One office has to look at them and then send that list to the second office. So sometimes that process takes 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And so we're just trying to get as many in front of you for approval that we have vetted. But we do understand that the short notification of so many businesses could be mind-boggling to you, and we apologize.
And also just to that point, we run the clearance regularly because things change every month. So a license could be active now, but then in January it's no longer active, or the taxes with the collector of revenue may be past due at the time. So we just try to get the most up-to-date information to be able to move forward. So that's due diligence period that we try to do, as well as make sure that we get it to the board in enough time for you all to at least review them and see what the approval is. But I will guarantee and put the stamp of the compliance team has reviewed and vetted and conducted site visits on these businesses in partnership with our consultants, then double checked that work as well and triple checked it in some instances. So the team is very busy and active right now and always on the phone with these businesses to verify the information that has been submitted and answer any questions as well. So with that, are there any other questions related to that point?
Laura, can you talk a little bit about the ongoing reporting by the businesses for the expansion awards?
Right, so the first reports are going to be due mid-January. So in their grant agreement, it speaks of the reporting requirements and that the reporting will be semi-annually. So for the initial awards that were funded in August and through today, so through December 31, if you received an award, you will have to report in January on your expenditures based on what you propose in your grant agreement. They could change, like if they had a certain dollar amount for salaries and another dollar amount for, say, supplies, and those amounts differed a little bit, that's fine. They just have to be eligible expenses, and the businesses have to submit invoices and payroll records to support those expenses when they report mid-January.
Thank you.
There's no other questions. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve resolution number 24 SLDC 990.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second, roll call vote.
Director Arnold,
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, Director Gilbert, Director Spencer,
Aye.
Director Reed,
Aye.
and Chair Richardson.
The majority present voting aye, the motion passes to approve resolution number 24 SLDC 990. The last resolution that we have on the North City Grant Program for today is resolution number 24 SLDC 988, authorizing SLDC to execute grant agreements and disperse from the North St. Louis Small Business and Nonprofit Program to eligible businesses and nonprofits for community enhancement projects. I'll pass it over to Mr. Lance Knuckles to go in detail about this resolution.
Good morning, Director Richardson and directors of the SLDC board. As always, it's an honor and a privilege to engage with you to give you updates about our work here at SLDC and how we're moving forward to execute all of our work, but more specifically in this moment in time, the North St. Louis Small Business and Nonprofit Grant Program. Prior to engaging in the resolution, I have a desire to have a conversation with you all to bring you up to speed on what I'll call—
Go ahead, move forward, please.
For now? Can you hear me?
It went in and out. Can you when you said you wanted to have a conversation, it stopped. So,
yeah, I can start over. So again, directors, good morning. Prior to reading the resolution, want to walk you through a process. At our last board meeting, the board of directors tasked me and my team to do due diligence on the 45 conditional awardees that were awarded with conditional awards for community enhancement in June of 2024. A part of that diligence process started when we brought the first round of conditional award applicants to you. However, we had continued efforts to move forward in that process. That process includes things like, and not limited to, making sure we are accurate and up to date on our business license, to make sure that we have cited all of the project addresses that are benefiting from these program funds, that we've also made sure CBI clearance is clear. And I will pause and say that CBI clearance is inclusive of real estate taxes on sites that are set to receive benefits for the program. I want to spend a few moments right now to talk about the real estate property tax or the real estate tax. That historically has been a process within the due diligence that's done as legal documents are being done. However, based upon our desire to be fully transparent and more importantly, do that diligence early, we've added that process in our partnership with the Collective Revenue and the Business License Office to ensure that we're gathering that information upfront around the real estate tax for those sites that are receiving benefits. And so as a part of that due diligence, again, we've conducted site visits with our partner, Lorna, and our consultants to make sure those things are lined up. We've done a deep dive in every file to make sure documentation has been sent over. And as you all know, a good portion of the community enhancement conditional awards were less than what the business had requested. And so the things that I'm bringing forward to you today have, one, been successful in meeting the Business License Office, Collective Revenue, and being current on real estate tax. They are also in a position where they provided a modified budget if those things are required based upon their funding allocation and their conditional award, as well as being able to provide project timelines and scopes around when that work can be done to meet the requirements of having the project be executed by September 30th of 2024. So this document that I have in front of you is a summary of what I believe are critical components for you all to be aware of, that this team in partnership with Lauren and our compliance team have done a significant amount of due diligence to ensure that things that you're approving now in this moment in time for funding have been vetted and meet all the requirements of the program and have addressed any potential issues or concerns related to this funding going to a specific project. So with that, I'm going to pause and see if there's any questions before I dive into running through all of these projects prior to recognizing the resolution that's in front of us. I think it's really important to give you all some context of the important things that we're doing. So I'll yield the floor for any preliminary questions before I engage in a summary overview of these 9 projects that I want to present to you today.
Yeah, Lance, I just think for one point of clarification, the real estate tax requirement is on the actual project that we're investing into and not the clearance for real estate taxes for if a business has several other entities that owns real estate across the city. This is about the very specific project that we're investing into, which has always been a requirement of TDA and other local funding and federal funding, is that we look at directly the project investment and not the overall status of real estate taxes for the entity on projects unrelated to this program.
Yeah, that is correct.
Yeah, okay. Just wanted to have that point of clarification for the public as well as the board. Thank you. You please move forward unless there are other questions from the directors. Go ahead, Lance. Thank you.
So we'll start off again. We have 9 firms that we're bringing before you for final funding approval. There's a consistent structure in the overview. We've identified unique identifier, the business name, the leadership of the company, and the type of program. But I will start really in the notion of, as it relates to the scoring and evaluation, to highlight the scores of each of these projects. As you all know, for the Economic Justice Lyman Filter, which is a 100-point evaluation, which requires a business to score a minimum score of 65 to advance to the next round. And so as you see, this business, an AMIC, which is 0444, the Advanced Manufacturing Center, scored a 75. The second evaluation is a 40-point subjective evaluation, and this project received a 31.3 score for a total of 106.3 out of 140 points. The other highlights that I want to bring to bear, and I'm just going to run through these just to give you context. The Economic Justice Index Action Plan average score was a 7.3 out of 10. The Economic Justice Index rating for this is an index rating of a 1, EGI 1, which has a maximum score of 10 points within the scoring process. And this project is also aligned with the MLK Innovation District, as well as the Martin Luther King Boulevard corridor, as the legislation speaks to aligned priority corridors. So this project was presented to us with an overall project budget of $37 million with a requested amount of $5 million. Per conversation, this project is developing 2 specific structures. And so they have decided to work with us and bring forward phase 1 of the project, which has an $18,969,000 budget, including our $2 million conditional award, and they have provided support for the remaining $16,969,243. So we're excited about the fact that this project does have additional funds. So our $2 million is leveraging another $16 million, roughly $17 million in grant dollars and also federal and state capital resources. There's a brief overview. I think you all are familiar with the Advanced Manufacturing Center to bring advanced manufacturing to North St. Louis, as well as job creation to support the economic corridor and economic vitality in North St. Louis. Other quick components here, just the size of the campus is around 89,000 square feet, and that it will be built in a safe environment and also provide some other amenities for community. So the compliance due diligence checklist, wanted to make sure I just draw our attention to the things I mentioned earlier in our conversation before I started this. Geographic eligibility, established business, meeting program eligibility, having completed a viability assessment, having a clear CBI clearance, including real estate tax for the specific site in question, having site control, the project rescope with their conditional award, if that is a requirement, and then funding commitment if there's other funding sources that have been committed to the project, and then the overall project timeline to meet an objective of executing their project to be open and available with a certificate of occupancy by September 30th of 2026. And so in this process, each business that I'm going to refer to you will identify whether they passed or not passed, but in no cases has anyone not passed any item, because this is a reduced number of businesses that have gone through that first round of vetting that are clear in all those aspects that we feel comfortable bringing back to you for your final approval to move forward in funding. And so then there's just a small thing at the end where I'm looking to have you affirm the conditional award and then move the project forward for funding. A simple background and rationale for all of these projects are around meeting the eligibility and program and compliance criteria. The project does have a clear and feasible project budget. The project owner has leveraged commitment for a viable project, and that the project provides meaningful impact in North St. Louis, and that it also provides needed resources and economic activity in alignment with legislation and investments by the program. That's the structure of all of these documents. Again, I feel really compelled to share with you that there's been a good amount of hours to make sure these files are in a position to bring them back in front of you, as you all guided and directed me as the Senior Vice President to ensure that due diligence was conducted on all these programs or all these applications, prior to final funding approval. And so I will run through the next series of businesses. So our next business is Global 9 LLC, which is business number 0366. Leader Ken Hutchinson. Project is located at 4223 Dr. Martin Luther King Drive. And this project scored in the first evaluation at 85, second round evaluation the 25.6, for a total of 110.6 out of 140. The project scored an average of 6 in the alignment with Economic Justice Action Plan goals, received the Economic Justice Index 1, is on the corridor, the Innovation District, as well as in alignment with the MLK corridor. The budget that was submitted for this project in original application was for $990,000. The conditional award was at that same amount, so there was no need to make any adjustments in relationship to this project. Brief overview about the project is provided. The business owner provided some level of impact around economic development, bringing growth and vitality, entrepreneurial support and infrastructure to ensure that there's continued infrastructure support for entrepreneurs within North St. Louis to collaborate and partner with our Northside Economic Empowerment Center, as well as the community engagement that has been conducted prior to moving the project forward. and the ongoing community engagement that they intend to do as a part of their objectives and goals. Clearly, this project is in targeted areas that are important to the city and their social impact initiatives that will be driven to support equity and also economic sustainability. And so, again, the due diligence on this project meets all the criteria, more specifically including a clear CBI with real estate taxes. This site is owned by the developer. There is no other need to rescope the conditional award, and we are fully funding this project, and that the project timeline is within time frames of moving this project forward. And again, this is a budgeted project for $990,000. And this project also has a series of simple rationales about how this project aligns with the Economic Justice Action Plan, as well as more specifically, the legislation that's driving this program. The third project includes Car Square Tenant Management. They're doing business as Car Square Tenant Corporation, led by Rodney Hubbard as the board chair. This is a rehabilitation of the Car Square Central Neighborhood Community Center. This project has been supported by community, as well as we have explored any potential improprieties for any notion of conflicts of interest, and have sought legal counsel to advise and to provide support in that perspective. This project scored a 75 out of 100 points in the first round evaluation and scored 38 points out of 40 in the second round evaluation, for a total of 113.7 points. Project scored an average on Economic Justice Action Plan goals of 8.7. It is also in the Economic Justice Index Area 1 and is within our our line demonstration area, Project Connect, where there's a lot of activity happening around NGA. And so we're excited about the alignment of this project there as well. The original project submission or budget was for $2.6 million. Based upon the conditional award that was offered, they have provided a revised budget to address more of the critical issues on the rehabilitation of the site, and have provided that timeline as well. And so this is the rehabilitation of the Car Square Central Neighborhood Community Center, addressing simple, I'll say general wear and tear on the facility, and then also in their second phase is to look to bring more advanced more advanced equipment to ensure that their commercial kitchen can be upgraded. But this first round will address more of the structural items on the facade to ensure that the structure is sound as they move forward to serve community. Again, this project passes eligibility, established business thresholds, and again is clear on real estate tax. This site is owned by the company, and there is we have a revised by the scope of work that has passed and approved and has a timeline for that. And so we're looking to have you affirm the conditional award of $500,000 for this specific project. Then we have the business 0702 Efficacy Consulting and Development, which is a project Fields Place Live at Natural Bridge, located at 4300 Natural Bridge, and some surrounding parcels around that. This project scored a 60 out of 100 in the first evaluation and 31.9 points in the second round evaluation, for a total of 99.9 points. The score, Economic Justice average alignment goals is 5.3. It is in the Economic Justice Index Area 2 and is aligned with the Natural Bridge corridor. This project originally submitted a request or project budget for $21 million with a request of $4.6 million. They've engaged with us. We've explored phasing of this project. They've separated the commercial facility from the housing facility, still on the same campus. And so our funds are in $1.5 million with support of $3.1 million project. And the developer has secured a $1.5 million first mortgage to ensure this project can be executed in a timely manner. This is a broader project. This project is a part of the commercial component of a smaller 14,000 square foot building. There is also housing on this campus, which is being explored by this developer, and that process is moving forward. And so there will be two structures on this campus to move this process forward and providing access to resources within the corridor in that community. Just a little more general information about the larger project, which is $21 million to give you that context. Development team, as well as this project does again pass all the muster. They own the main site and have options on a series of parcels related to the project, and will move forward at closing to acquire any additional parcels from LRA through the option that is in place at this moment in time. So again, their conditional award is an amount of $1.5 million. We're looking to support and have that funded at $1.5 million, including your support. Foster Services for Funerals 0084 is a funeral home located at the intersection of North Sarah and Dr. Martin Luther King Drive. This is owned by Ms. Lozella Foster. In the first evaluation, they scored a 70 point out of 100. And the second phase evaluation scored 34.7 out of 40, giving them a total of 104.7, with the average goal score of 6.7, being an Economic Justice Index Area 1, also on the MLK Innovation District, as well as the MLK Corridor Priority Projects Corridor.
Hey, Lan.
Yes, sir.
On the project overview, I think there's an error there you have within North Minneapolis.
Did I say Indianapolis?
No, you said, no, on the project overview on the document.
So yes, I'm sorry. Every now and then, as you all know, I'm from Minneapolis. Every now and then, I think about home. So I apologize. Apologize for that. Thank you, Director Richardson, for noticing that. I'll make that correction in this document. Thank you for that noting.
Just for the clarification for the board, so these overviews is really for the board edification and get a description. Really the spreadsheet. So I just want you to know that some of those errors, we will make sure that they're updated prior to uploading them to the transparency portal, but it's not part of your approved resolution today. So I just wanted to make sure that was noted, Lance. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, sir. Again, this project had a total project budget of $2.9 million, a funding request of $1.7 million. And right now the project is at still $2.9 million. And our conditional award is 1.7, and the business owner has brought to the table a $1.2 million loan, first mortgage to support the development of this project. Again, this is a much needed service of a funeral home located in North St. Louis, not North Minneapolis, and meets all the criteria and has passed being current on CBI clearance and real estate tax for this site. And so we're looking to have the $1.7 million conditional award affirmed and to provide funding support to move that project forward. Now we move on to some of the smaller projects, which are the facade programs, which were capped at $100,000. And so A and B Phase 2 car wash and detail is currently located at 1484 Union. They own parcels on the same site, kind of around the corner. 5176 through 5192, where they intend to expand their campus to enhance the offerings of services that they provide. Out of the first 100-point evaluation, this business scored 75 out of 100. Second evaluation scored 22.7 out of 40, with an overall 97.7 score. Average score of 6 in the economic plan goals, Economic Justice Index Area 1, MLK Innovation District, as well as on Dr. Martin Luther King Drive. The original submission was for $57,679. Our conditional award is for that value. And so again, this company is just looking to do facade improvements to expand and enhance their offerings on the intersection of Union and Dr. Martin Luther King. This is a site that is owned by the company, and they are current on the real estate tax and pass and have provided a project timeline as well as a budget to continue to move their project forward. So again, we're seeking to affirm the conditional award of $57,679,000 to move this project to funding. We also have Power 4 STL Business 0407, located at 5101 Delmar. The project site that the business owns is at 2715 Union Boulevard. This business scored a 70 out of 100 in the first evaluation and a 36 out of 40 in the second round evaluation. with a 6.7 on alignment with your economic justice action plan goals. It is an economic justice index area 2 and is aligned with the priority corridor on Union Boulevard. This project did submit a first proposal for $983,000 with an adjusted facade recommendation for conditional award for $100,000. And this program, as we've engaged with them, have been able to break down their budget to be able to have successful components to be completed for this project and have the project occupiable. They are modifying their scope of work to, instead of a full build out, to do a smaller build out of the project and create more of a larger community space to host not only their training sessions and the work they do around gun violence, trauma, but to just be more available to make themselves a community partner to do that work. And so there's a brief overview about the bullet-related injury clinic. Dr. LJ has been doing some phenomenal work with this effort, and they just recently purchased this building, which is really exciting for this organization. They have been leasing the structure, and now they own the structure. And so again, they've met all the requirements. They do own the site now, and they are current on real estate taxes. And we're looking to affirm the $100,000 facade enhancement to this site located on Union Boulevard. Wellston Loop Community Development. This is one that is a facade. The business is located at 1514 Hodemont Avenue. This is a facade program to support them doing structural work to that facility as they provide resources and services to residents in the community. This business scored a 73 out of 100 in the first round evaluation, 37.3 in the second round evaluation, for a total score of 110.3 out of 140 points. They had a 9.3 in alignment with the Economic Justice Action Plan goals. They're in the Economic Justice Index Area 2 and within the MLK Innovation District and on the Dr. Martin Luther King corridor. This project on the conditional awards list was conditionally awarded for $5,000. That was a clerical error in the spreadsheet. Their application request is for $50,000. So in this moment, I'm raising that to your attention because we do want to move forward with the requested level of funding at $50,000 to support this work, to support this project that they're delivering in that community. They do pass all the rigor of CBI clearance and site control. And so we are seeking to make an adjustment from a conditional award of $5,000 to $50,000, which was the actual request of this organization and this project. Then I believe our final business is the French Fry Factory. This French Fry Factory is located at 1235 North Grand and scored a 75 out of 100 points in the first round evaluation, scored a 28.9 in the second round evaluation for 103.9 score overall. The project scored a 6th average score of Economic Justice Index 1. They're within the Project Connect demonstration area and also on North Grand Boulevard aligned priority corridors. This project had an original request for $250,000. Upon due diligence review, there were things within their budget that were ineligible. And so we're modifying that allocation and conditional award to reflect the eligible uses for that program. We have had conversation with this business as well as all businesses being brought for you today. They are aware of that change. And so some of these funds will go back into the pool, but we are looking to have them get support to make, again, structural assessments in a building that they currently are leasing to support their ongoing, the ongoing support of their services to ensure that site is structurally sound. We do have permission from the landowner for the facade improvements to happen, and they are aware that they have to be a part of signing a beneficiary agreement, deed of trust, and allura in relationship to this property, and as well as they provide a budget for the $100,000 conditional award that we would like to affirm with this body today. And so I'll pause. I really wanted to just walk through that to give you all an extreme level of confidence that we have done an abundance of due diligence on this first round of businesses. As you all are aware, there were 45 businesses conditionally awarded back in June 27th of this year. This is 9 of those businesses that have met all the criteria and have had an additional one-on-one and series of engagement with our team to ensure we have all the necessary documentation to support and maintain their conditional award status. And so at this moment in time, I will yield the floor and actually run through the resolution itself in its entirety to open the floor for discussion from the body around any of these 9 projects. And so again, directors, in front of you, I have resolution number 24 SLDC 988, authorizing SLDC to execute grant agreements and disperse grants from the North St. Louis Small Business and Nonprofit Grant Program to eligible businesses and nonprofits for community enhancement projects. And so we have vetted these projects in grave detail to ensure execution of funds and disbursement of funds are actually moving in an appropriate way. And I seek your support to be able to move these projects forward to funding status. But I will yield the floor to any questions from any director at this moment in time.
So Director Gilbert.
Yes, can you remind me on these larger awards, what kind of oversight we will have during the construction period? Is this, $2 million on the first one going into something with the title company so that we can be assured the money is being properly used?
Yes, ma'am. And so for all programs for community enhancement, a dispersing agent is being used for all programs or all projects. So we will disperse funds once those things are released. We also do have compliance oversight internally on the construction. And so as construction is happening on these projects, there will be oversight and approval of draw requests. Additionally, any project receiving over $1 million or their project size is over $1 million will be participating and have engaged with the compliance team on regulation 70767 in relationship to participation on these projects. So projects will have an abundance of oversight. The smaller facade projects will have oversight on those draws, but larger projects exceeding $1 million of either investment or project size will have a larger, more due diligence process as it relates to specific ordinance that are required by SLDC to execute through our compliance.
Thank you.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
Lance, as it relates to the, because we are making a substantial investment into real estate projects themselves, how is our investment secured from a collateral standpoint?
So as we move forward from funding approval from this body, there are a series of legal documents that are required. We are in current conversation with CDA about which agreement is going to be the most substantial based upon the type of project and the services that are being provided by the business. So there will either be a sub-recipient agreement or a beneficiary agreement that is a legal document framing the relationship and the services being provided by the business. There is also a deed of trust that will be placed on the structure receiving the financial benefit. There will also be a LURA put in place, and we are in conversation about the timing on the LURA to support economic growth and vitality, as well as a dispersing agreement that will be put in place to ensure all dollars are being dispersed in the appropriate way and being tracked in a way to move the project forward. And so in that dispersing, we will be releasing funds of up to 50% at closing, and then requiring receipts, invoices, and lien waivers for all services for that first draw. And then we'll release an additional 45% of the funds for the project. And then we'll hold the final 5% of the project funds until the project is complete and receives a certificate of occupancy and provides the final report based upon the development project itself.
And again, as we're making these investments, because we have that deed of trust, we have some right to the property if they do not meet the obligations of the grant agreement. So we are protected in that instance as well. I want to make sure that that's clear, abundantly clear here for the board and the public too. Yes, please.
Lance, a couple.
Can I add in here? Oh, I'm sorry. Regarding the releasing of the 50% of the funds, that release of funds will go to the dispersing agent. And then our construction manager will, we are mirroring CDA's residential development program, if any of you all are familiar with that. So there is a construction drawdown form that will be part of the legal documents that details by line item the amounts for each construction line item and for the other development costs, the soft costs, that if we are funding any of those. And so we will release the 50% to the company. And then once the developer wants to do a drawdown, they will complete that form. Our construction manager will go out to verify that whatever percent of each line item they would like to be paid for is in fact completed. And we would then relay that information to the title company to release those funds at that time. Just wanted to put that in there.
Thank you, Lorna. Director Spencer.
Just a couple of comments and one question. I love the idea of leveraging this funding for larger investments. I think that's very, very smart. I also love the cluster of investments along Mount Martin Luther King, along with the other SLDC investments. I think that's also very smart. The only question I have on the foster services for funerals, I thought that building was already built and wondered maybe I'm missing if they're expanding or doing something different on that particular site.
Yeah, so I can speak to that, and Director Richardson, I'm quite sure he'll follow up with this. As we were developing the legal documents for this initiative, SLDC extended capital to support this project for us to be able to execute a full set of legal documents. And so that project is nearing completion. However, we still need to follow formal protocol to use ARPA funds to be able to support this project moving forward. So, Mr. I don't know if you want to speak any more to that, Mr. Richardson, behind that statement.
Yeah, so the project could not move forward without the funds being committed. So when we had an initial approval, that was, again, our commitment from SLDC to support the project. Now we're getting formal approval to use the ARPA funds to reimburse that investment.
Oh, so it's a reimbursement of the project that's already done.
Yeah.
But it was not completed prior to that application being submitted.
Okay.
And so they still have other loans and funding outstanding that needs to be paid back in order to get that fully completed. Any other questions from the board? Yes, please.
Just to, in the interest of full disclosure, I'm on a development committee for RISE that looked at the greater efficacy project,
gotcha. Okay.
Primarily the housing piece, the light deck piece, which is not included in what we're looking at today, but I've seen it from several different angles.
Okay, okay, great. With that, I would like to entertain a motion to approve resolution number 24 SLDC 988. Second one. Motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Director Arnold,
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard,
I recuse myself.
Director Gilbert,
Aye.
Director Spencer,
Aye.
Director Reed,
Aye.
Chair Richardson.
Aye. With the majority present voting aye, the motion passes to approve resolution number 24 SLDC 988. Lance, don't go anywhere. I do.
I'm not.
Yeah, before we move forward, there were a list of rescissions as well.
Yeah.
For this program. Can you go into more detail around the rescissions? And why those rescissions took place?
Yes, sir. Again, this is more of a operational, not necessarily a board decision. As a part of the due diligence that I described in relationship to the 9 projects that you also graciously supported to move forward in funding, in doing that extreme detailed due diligence, identified a series of, I'll say, inconsistencies, but I'll describe them. We have the People's Project Corporation, which is business number 0466, which was a home-based business. And as based upon Treasury rule, home-based businesses, more specifically, a residential home cannot be a benefactor of these funds for rehabilitation. And so we had the People's Project Corporation, which was deemed ineligible because of that. Also, 0701 Aaliyah Virgin Hair is a home-based business, as well as 0610 St. Louis Torchbearers is a home-based business. Then we had Clark Construction, which is 0659. We're seeking to use ARPA funds to do renovations to a residential home as a model home, which is also an ineligible use of funds. And then also for Lux renovations, they were attempting to use funds for improvement to a residential district for rental purposes, which is an ineligible use of funds. And so based upon that, we have 3 businesses that we've moved through an operational process, done the due diligence, and have communicated to those businesses why their conditional award is being rescinded based upon the items described, whether a home-based business or an ineligible use of funds with their project. And so the dollars that will end up going back into the pool for other businesses is roughly $1.8 million. Lorna, I'll have you, because I think you have the more exact number in front of you.
But Manager, also, Sigma Legacy.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Yes, totally, and I apologize for that. There is a business, Sigma Legacy Foundation. They had an original budget of $600,000 submitted to us, and upon assessing the feasibility of a $100,000 investment or conditional award from SLDC, there was not a project that could be executed to allow that structure to be inhabitable and to receive a certificate of occupancy with that amount of funds. And so we were then rescinding that award based upon not being able to meet that project timeline and criteria. But I'll yield the floor to Lorna because I know she has some additional things to maybe add.
No, I just wanted to make a slight correction for the record. Lance, you've said a lot, and thank you very much for all your hard work. But wanted to correct the record on Clark Construction and Lux Renovation. Clark Construction wanted to use the fund for the development of a home-based business, and Lux Renovation wanted to build the model for future homes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. Again, I just wanted to make sure the board and the public were aware of why those decisions took place. And as Lance spoke to, that funding will go back into the pool to help other businesses that were being reconsidered. So with that, yes, go ahead.
I'd like me to just provide a brief update on that process in this moment, sir.
Yeah, really quickly.
Okay, so really quickly, as you all know, we conducted one-on-one sessions with businesses from August through the end of October, early November. And within that process, we had roughly, I'm estimating this number, a number of businesses above 30 that had their applications reconsidered and were scored above 65, and then also were scored in the second phase evaluation. And so we do have a pool of businesses that we will, after the board approval of all the conditional awards, then we'll reassess those businesses with all the remaining resources that we have allocated to be able to support those businesses as we move forward to support those business funding. And so that process is moving forward, and we'll be bringing the remainder of the conditional awards back to this body for your support and funding approval, just as we did this month. And so then once that's all completed, we'll have any remaining funds that can support those other projects as they move forward through the decision-making protocol. So thank you for that, Mr. Richardson. I just want to provide that quick update.
Thank you, appreciate it. With that, we'll move on to resolution number 24, SLDC 991, approving and authorizing an annual administrative work program by and among the city of St. Louis, CDA, SLDC for the period January 1st, 2025 to December 31st, 2025. Pass it over to our CFO, Mr. Charlie Hine.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This resolution is an annual report that, our request that we bring to you. CDA is our grantor on this. They fund a certain number of our staff and either entirely or partially. This particular grant is for $500,000. It's the same as it was last year and the previous year. The reason we bring it to you in December is they're on a calendar year disbursement or awarding system, and we're on fiscal year. So we build this into our fiscal year when we bring our budget to you in July. So this is a part of that, and when we brought our budget to you, we anticipated that CDA would continue to provide us with this with these funds, and it's up for your vote, but it is similar to what it's been in the past years and for a long time.
Thank you, Charlie. Any questions in regard to this resolution? Hearing, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve resolution number 24 SLDC 991.
So move, Gilbert.
Second.
Motion and a second, roll call vote.
Director Arnold,
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Aye. Director Gilbert,
Aye.
Director Spencer,
Aye.
Director Reed,
Aye.
and Chair Richardson.
Aye. With all present voting aye, the motion passes to approve resolution number 24 SLDC 991. I think that's our final resolution for 2024. So congratulations, everybody, and thank you again, board, for all of the support throughout the year. I think this was what, 991, is that right? Resolutions. We almost hit 1,000, not quite. We got something to shoot for next year. 991 resolutions. So thank you again for the support. We will now move forward to the next portion of our board meeting today, which is the director's report open agenda. We'll start with our financial audit presentation from Mr. Charlie Long.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. Again, this is something we present to you usually at this time of year. It's for our the audit is for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 24. The audit began back late last summer when we started feeding information to the auditors in July and August. They got more deeply involved in September, October, November, and December. And the audit, in my understanding, is a clean audit. There's no findings or question cost. There is a more or less short preamble to the audit, which is language that our accounting staff has put together and presented. It's under Roman numerals, small Roman numerals 1 through 5, and it's just right after the content page. Mark Graves and Jeffrey Randall are both here, and we'll talk to the audit. Again, it's not a voting type issue. It's just informational only for your review. And I'm going to turn it over to, I think, Mark and Jeffrey. Jump in whenever you feel you need to. I think Mark's going to share a screen with you also.
Good morning. Yes, I am going to go ahead and share my screen here and get that out of the way. So hopefully everybody can see the screen, the financial statement up. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, fantastic.
Larger maybe for the public, but it's kind of small on our screen.
Let me see. Does that get you a little better?
That's a lot better. Thank you.
Fantastic. All right. So again, good morning. My name is Mark Graves. I'm an audit partner at Commercial Trelaw & Company. Thank you, Chairman Richardson and the board for having us here. We are the independent auditors for St. Louis Development Corporation. Again, Jeffrey Randall is here, as well from Randall and Associates. He's our partner firm. So he works through the audit with us throughout the process. He's here today. So if any questions that he can address, he certainly will field those for us.
Good
We
morning,
would like
Board.
to thank we'd like to thank Charlie, Chris, and Joe, as well as their entire staff for their diligence and their preparedness throughout the audit. You all make accommodations for us so that we can come hang out in the library there. It's a lot more efficient for us to be on site and get a lot of our audit work done. So we're grateful that you provided that for us. So everyone should have received a copy of the audit earlier this week, I believe, but I have it up on the screen here as well. Our professional standards do require us to kind of lay out the ground rules of the audit process for you. So our responsibility as your independent auditors is to express an opinion that these are the financial statements are prepared in conformity with U.S. generally accepted accounting principles, which I'm happy to say that they are. The audit was appropriately planned. We did not deviate from our plan from the beginning, so that happened as we would have expected it to. We do get an understanding of the internal control processes are in place. We don't do a special test of internal controls, but having that understanding helps us determine what testing is needed to be done. We don't retest every transaction, as I think you all know, but that helps us get an understanding of what testing needs to be done. These are your financial statements, which is to say management is responsible for these. It includes the selection of accounting policies. We have some 10 pages of accounting policies that I would suggest are appropriate for an organization the size of St. Louis Development Corporation, and they are being applied correctly. So that's happening as we would expect. There are also accounting estimates that come into play in any financial statements, things like the collectability of receivables, the useful lives of capital assets, as well as the value of property held for development. So those estimates are tested. As of June 30th, 2024, we're comfortable with the estimates that are in place. I'm happy to say there were no disagreements with management concerning financial accounting, reporting, or any auditing matters. We didn't have any difficulties dealing with management in performing and completing the audit either. So again, this is the financial information for June 30th, 2024. I'm going to do my best to be somewhat brief. But if there's questions, you can stop me as we go, or you can certainly provide questions to Charlie afterwards, and he can pass those along to us. St. Louis SLDC reports in accordance with Government Auditing Standards Board pronouncements. In essence, there are three sets of financial statements. So if you look at this table of contents page, you're going to see the management and discussion that Charlie alluded to, but then we have various sets of financial statements. So the statement of net position on page 4 and the statement of activities that's on page 5 provide information about activity of 100% of SLDC. All of the debt, all of the fixed assets, all the capital assets, everything is included in those financial statements. Next, we get the balance sheet that's reported on page 6 and the statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balances that's reported on page 8. The difference between these two sets of financial statements is that this second set kind of attempts to focus on just the near-term inflows and outflows of spendable resources. So more of a current look at the activity of the organization. We do go on to identify that there is a proprietary fund, the garages, so that's reported separately on pages 10 through 12 as well. Like Charlie said, in reporting under the Government Auditing Standards Board, you're required to have this management discussion and analysis. It is pages Roman numerals I through IV, or I through IV. It provides an overall review of SLDC's financial activities for the year ended June 30 of 2024. And this is one of the areas or one of the spots that you are going to actually see some comparative information. So you're going to see information of 23 and 24, and then there's some narrative that goes along with that to kind of give you an update, if you will, of what the activities, what the ins and outs were for the year. If we move past this MD&A, what we will get to is our independent auditor's report. And this independent auditor's report is unmodified, which is the best possible report you can have. It does identify that the financials are in conformity with generally accepted auditing principles, and there were no material misstatements noted in the audit process. You all know SLDC is a component unit of the city of St. Louis, which means that, this information is included in the city's annual report. It is reported as a discretely presented component unit, which is to say, if you look at the city's audit, you're going to have all the city activity, and SLDC is going to be set to the side as a component unit. And that's set that way on purpose because it really does emphasize that SLDC is legally separate from the city of St. Louis. So with that, I wanted to just give you a few quick highlights. So if we move on to the statement of net position, this is your assets and your liabilities. A couple of points to note. Total assets for the year were at 132.9 million. That's an increase of 5.7 million over 2023. The increase can primarily be, or is primarily a result of LRA cash increases of about 7.3 million. The majority of that are the ARPA funds that were received that will be dispersed over the next 3-year period. So those funds are in cash right now. I can also note cash and cash equivalents and investments that you all have are diversified across several banks and facilities. So that's all in a very safe vehicles to protect those funds. The increase in cash was offset by decreases in receivables and other receivables of about 2.7 million. Part of that decrease is related to a $1.4 million allowance that was recorded by LCRA on some past due collections. So that has been recorded this year. Additionally, LCRA-H has collected $1.1 million of NGA bond funds that they were expecting. Capital assets, this last section here, were increased about 1.2 million, primarily due to capital improvements at the St. Louis Center garage. When we move into the liabilities section, you'll see that total liabilities are at 96.4 million, an increase of about 5.6 over 2023. Notes payable decreased 1.8 million. This is due to normal amortization of the project loans on City Blocks 177 and 118, as well as payments on 600 Washington and the Biddle House and the port terminal. So normal scheduled payments on notes payable. We did see other liabilities increase 7.4 million. And again, most of that is due to the ARPA funds that were received. So we received the cash. We have that liability sitting there as well that will be removed when those disbursements are made. So when we have total assets of 132 million, total liabilities of 96 million, brings us to a total net position of just over 36 million at the end of the year. And I will point out, of that 36 million, 24.2 million of that is invested in capital assets, net of the related debt. The next page is our statement of activities. I'm going to reduce that just a little so we can make sure we see everything. So the statement of activities is kind of your revenues and your expenses, kind of your income statement, if you will. I will note out that in this particular statement, we point out the expenses are reported first. And this really is kind of to drive home SLDC's fiduciary responsibility to the citizens of St. Louis. So they lay out the expenses first. So when we look at our expenses, we compare that to last year, expenses decreased $7.5 million. A large part of that decrease was $12.8 million due to less improvement work done around the NGA development by LCRA-H. So we looked at last year, there was more development last year than there was this year in that area. There was also a $2.5 million increase in personnel costs, $1.4 million increase in receivable allowances that we talked about. And on property that was acquired this year, a $2.7 million impairment allowance was recorded as well. So those are the ups and downs of those expenses. When we look at the revenues were down about 10.7 million compared to last year. And the biggest decrease is federal grants decreased 9.1 million, and that's primarily due to the timing of the disbursements of the ARPA funds. So again, while we receive some of those funds, they're on the balance sheet, they're not captured as revenue until they're actually paid out as expenses. So that revenue and expense gets matched. Other governmental revenue, we also saw increased 10.4 million, and that was due to the state MDFB contribution tax program managed by LCRA. So that's included in that area. We also saw other operating expenses decrease. That's in this category. So we saw operating decrease of about 12.8 million. And again, that's in line with the decrease in the work done on the NGA side. So those kind of go hand in hand. Last year, revenue and expenses related to that were up. This year, they were down a little bit. Net, once we get through revenues and expenses, we have a change in net position that totaled 440,000 to the good. 1.4 million of that was the business type activities there, but our net position at the end of the year increased just over $400,000. Now, like I said earlier, the management discussion and analysis goes into a lot more detail, does talk about those fluctuations between 23 and 24 as well. A couple of items that I will point out that I'm not going to get into a lot of detail. If you roll down through the next few pages, it's those other statements that we talked about that kind of provide a kind of a breakout of some of that additional information that were on those first statements that we did look at. There's reconciliation pages that are in there that kind of bridge between the two sets of financial statements. So as you look at that, you can kind of make that connection between the differences. And then we get to our proprietary financial statements, and past those, we will get to the footnotes. So we do have 10 pages of accounting policies. I'm not going to belabor any of those. If there's questions about them, we can address them. Following that, when we jump all the way to page 23, what you're going to see is more detailed explanation of all of the numbers that we've already looked at. So when we get into this area, on the face of the statements, there's one number. This breaks that out in a lot more detail. Following that, we have some supplemental information. And I do like to point that out because I do know there are certain areas that some folks are more concerned about one of the specific arms, if you will, of SLDC. So in the supplemental schedules, there's a balance sheet and income statement that breaks out individually each one of the arms of SLDC. I will also note that we had the schedule of federal awards for the year. That is to say, federal amounts that were expended by SLDC. If we flip to the last page of this schedule, you'll see that you received some almost 13.2 million in federal funds. So that test, where we did a single audit on those awards. As Charlie mentioned, we had no findings. We had no question costs in doing that process. So all of that happened as we would have expected. Following this are the reports that go along with those single audits that do say just that everything was on the up and up related to those federal funds that were received. So I didn't look at my clock. I am looking at it now. It's right at 10 o'clock. I've gone through that extremely quickly, but I'd happy to address any questions if there are any. If there are any specific pages you'd like me to circle back to, I'd be happy to do that as well.
Questions from the directors about the audit? Great. Again, congratulations to Charlie and Chris for an amazing job continuing to manage our finances in an appropriate manner and no reported findings and making sure that we're continuing to move forward in a diligent manner. Thank you all for the presentation as well. With that, we'll move forward to the next item, which is some more uplifting news. I know that was a lot to digest. But St. Louis has been awarded the 2026 U.S. Figure Skating Championship at the Enterprise Center, which is really exciting. And one of the things that I wanted to note is the Sports Commission, as you all may remember, out of the 991 resolutions we approved, one of them was to approve our support of the establishment of the Entertainment and Event Attraction Fund of $500,000. A portion of that guarantee was leveraged to attract this event, and the Sports Commission, as well as the U.S. Gymnastics Association, mentioned that without that contribution, we wouldn't have had this event in St. Louis. So I think that's a great testament of, that's almost $10 million of revenue, economic revenue that will be created, hotel rooms and others. This event will be watched by the entire world as this will be the final competition before the Winter Olympics in Italy. So again, putting St. Louis on the map and getting eyeballs. That small investment will go a long way. So the Sports Commission wanted to send a special thank you to the board for their continued support of their work and their efforts. And we hope to attract more events leveraging that fund. Again, that fund is staying at SLDC and in the event we need to pull from it, it will be there. We don't anticipate that we will need to, but it's there just in case. So great. And I know we had some quick positive coverage on it. We wanted to share that real quick.
For a big-time event, putting St. Louis at the center of the figure skating world. The city has secured the U.S. Figure Skating Championship, which will lead to the 2026 Winter Olympics. That event will be in January 2026 at the Enterprise Center. This is the first time this event has been here in nearly 20 years. First Alert 4's Nathan Vickers following that big news. Nathan's live downtown for us. Nathan, a huge win for St. Louis and for the Metro.
That's right, Cameron. Landing an event this size is a big deal for St. Louis, and it draws crowds into the city during a normally slow time of year in early January of 2026. We talked a little bit about the Sporting Commission about that today. They say they estimate around $8 to $10 million in economic impact for the city. Columbus hosted this event early this year. Officials there reported around 10,000 out-of-town visitors from that event. The city helped land this in part in St. Louis because of a $500,000 backstop fund established earlier this year that could cover potential losses from major events like this one. It's an incentive to help attract high-profile games and tournaments, but hosting something like this also means the region has a responsibility to put its best foot forward. The city's development arm, SLDC, says in the next year the city will be working on some infrastructure projects downtown, as well as making headway on the Railway Exchange building.
We want to make sure that when people come to St. Louis, they see vibrancy, they see action, they see tourists walking around excited about the city. They see our residents walking around with their families, really just enjoying downtown and the greatness that it is.
And later at 5, we'll talk to local businesses nearby about the impact of this on downtown, as well as local athletes who are also very interested in seeing high-profile athletes coming here to St. Louis. Reporting live, Nathan Vickers, First Alert 4.
All right, Nathan, we'll see you soon. Thank you. Developing.
Thank you again. I just wanted to make sure you all see some of the positive coverage of the SLDC and the great work that happens through this board as well. The last thing I want to highlight is thank you to some of the board members and the other staff that attended the holiday party event that we had. It was a great time, and those who weren't able to attend, you missed out on a very exciting event. And then also, just so the board is aware, it was loud. So we got to keep it a little down for Director Gibber next year. But we also held a Staff Appreciation Day. Again, the staff has worked really hard in 2024 to continue to move, an enormous, unprecedented amount of resources out the door to support the city of St. Louis and our economic development and our growth of our city. Also during that meeting, we talked about core values and the need to ensure that we hold ourselves to a higher standard around transparency, accountability, and also being equity driven and people centered. So we will continue to move in that way. And thank you all for your support throughout the year and the staff as well. Our next regular scheduled board meeting is January 16th, 2025. I do have one thing that will be held in executive session. And one second, I'm trying to find the statute here. I would like to entertain a motion to enter into executive session to discuss matters regarding hiring, firing, disciplining, or promoting of particular employees. The personal information is discussed as provided by section 610021, Article 3. And with that, I'll just like to entertain a motion to enter into executive session.
So moved. Second.
Second.
Motion A motion from Gilbert, second by Spencer. We will go into executive session. We'll come back in a moment to close out the board meeting. Can I have a roll call vote? I'm sorry.
Director Arnold,
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Aye. Director Gilbert. Aye. Director Spencer.
Aye.
Director Reed. And Chair Richardson.
Aye. With that, the motion passes to enter into executive session. Thank you for joining us back into our open session. Can I have a roll call, please?
Director Arnold,
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Director Gilbert.
Aye.
Director Spencer.
Aye.
Director Reed.
Aye.
And Chair Richardson.
Aye. We have a quorum, and with that, I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved.
Second.
Second, we are adjourned. Thank you all. Appreciate it.